What's good, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Green with Envy. I'm riding solo today. This is a great post-game reaction pod as the Celtics just take down the first place Detroit Pistons in an NBA Cup game. Celtics still have some hope for making it through to the next round of the NBA Cup, but they're going to need some help from some other teams. I think Miami and New York both have to lose tonight, but the Celtics squeak out a victory 117-114 over the Detroit Pistons. I'm riding solo today. So if you have questions, throw them in the chat. I'm happy to answer any questions live here as we are just kind of doing this freestyle here the night before Thanksgiving. If you're rocking with me, I appreciate you being here. Hopefully after this, you get to go out and enjoy the Thanksgiving Eve festivities. Will was actually at the game tonight, so I asked Will to text me a few thoughts. Mostly his thoughts are Joe Mazzulla related because I still Joe, I'm just questioning a lot of the stuff that Joe ends up doing, mainly his all defensive lineup at the end of the game where he has Ugo Gonzalez on the bench. It's like you go offense, defense, you get Peyton Pritchard out of the game and you go with your best defensive lineup. And instead of Ugo, who went in there for 6 minutes and made a huge impact, you go Josh Minott and Baylor Shireman over him. If that's the way you see it, fine, Joe. Maybe he trusts them not to foul. I don't see it with Minott. Joe was screaming at Minott earlier in the fourth quarter for some of his decisions on the offensive side of the ball. But nevertheless, the Celtics pull out a victory. They survive a definite foul, a 3-point foul call where Cade Cunningham's coming down. Celtics are in a foul up 3 strategy, and Josh Minott and Jordan Walsh foul Cade Cunningham at half court as he's gathering to shoot a 3-pointer, knowing that the foul is coming. Initially, that is called a 2-point foul shot. And then Tony Brothers comes in, overrules it, correctly calls it a 3-point foul because Cade was going up for a shot. And that's just the way it is. You have to foul on a downward dribble. And Cade ends up missing the third of the 3 free throws. And what I do love about that, right, because the Celtics are up at that point, it would have been 115, 114. Right, Joe Mazzulla brings in Amari Williams, who played great tonight. I can't wait to talk about him and his performance. So he is boxing out Jalen Duren on the right side, on the left side, and then Jaylen Brown one-on-one with Beef Stew. And I don't know if you guys caught this, but Jalen and Beef Stew are like defensive versus offensive linemen, pretty much like a tush push type scenario where they're just trying to get as low as they possibly can and get the leverage. And go back and watch that if you don't know what I'm talking about right now, because they are like falling over trying to get so low that their like elbows are on the ground, and Jalen boxes out Beef Stew and is able to keep him out of that rebound. One of the best rebounders in the league. It's just Jalen with no help. They trust Jaylen Brown to get to box out Beef Stew in that moment. Jalen didn't have the most efficient game tonight, but it was moments like that that prove why Jaylen Brown is kind of redefining his ceiling once again, as Jaylen Brown does every single year, of what is his level of player in this league. We've always had him as a top 15 guy on this podcast, trying not to be too biased or anything. I'm the JB guy of the pod, if you will. I always see his ceiling as like a top 8 guy in the league. Just because of his impact on defense at the plays like he had tonight, guarding Jalen Duren in a pinch, boxing out Beef Stew like that, the steals that he has, the blocks that he has. JB was great tonight despite the inefficient stat line. Okay. Those are my initial brain dump thoughts as we go here. See, we got some people tuning in. If you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. Any comments, anything that you want to talk about. After we recap the game, we are also going to be giving thanks to each member of the Boston Celtics. So I have a list. We're just going to go player by player. I'm going to say something that I'm thankful for some development that I've seen out of them this season. Now, coming back to the game, this was an interesting one. Let me just pull up the box score here just so I have some sort of visual here, because whenever you do these solo pods, it's always tough to just kind of talk to yourself. So let's just go through the Celtics first. Starting lineup tonight was Jaylen Brown, Jordan Walsh, Luka Garza, Peyton Pritchard, and Derek White. Neemias Queta obviously sprained his ankle in the previous game against the Magic, so he was unable to go in a game where you need your 1 7-footer on the roster, right? We didn't know Amari Williams was going to get some time tonight, who's also a 7-footer. But Luka Garza gets the call and is largely irrelevant, as he's been pretty much the whole season, aside from a few moments here or there where Scal gets excited about Luka Garza, but he's not an NBA player, in my opinion. No hate to him. I just don't think he is. And he goes 11 minutes. And Joe Mazzulla, one of the things that I did like about Joe tonight is he realized Luka was overmatched against this athletic Detroit team. And he immediately decided, okay, Luka Garza is going to start the first quarter and the third quarter. But other than that, I'm going to match Amari Williams minutes with Jalen Duren minutes, which I thought was a really interesting move, putting all of that trust in, a rookie who hasn't played. And they gave Amari Williams an opportunity, and I thought he actually did really well. And while Neemias Queta is out, hopefully Amari Williams continues to get some reps, because I think there's a decent prospect there as a backup big. And Amari Williams as your third big with Queta as your starter. Who are you going to figure out at the trade deadline to work into as your second big? Amari Williams is your third big. I think that's has the potential to be a decent rotation. All right. So in the first quarter, we were really struggling. It looked like the Pistons might just put their foot down and just be like, hey, we need this win, NBA Cup game. We're the best team in the East, riding a 13-game winning streak or 14-game winning streak, whatever they were on. And Asar Thompson came out playing great defense. Jalen was struggling. I think he was like 1 for 8 in the first quarter, just bricking mid-range shots, not able to finish around the rim, turning the ball over. Just a pretty bad first quarter out of Jaylen Brown. But come to the rescue, Baylor Shireman, who I've been low on. I'm not going to mince my words here. I didn't think Baylor Shireman had anything to offer this season. Joe clearly trusts him. Joe trusts him for a couple of reasons. One, he's already trusted him on challenge calls twice this season. One of them was tonight, which they won, and one of them was a couple of games ago, which they also won. Right. So Joe clearly trusts Baylor Shireman. He likes something about him. He's proven that he's a better defender than I ever could have hoped. And I think there's a role for Baylor Shireman in the NBA because he can shoot. He's a good passer, as you saw that ridiculous inbounds pass to Derek White when we needed to get the ball in bounds at the end of the game. He just threw an absolute dime, former quarterback, over Derek White's shoulder with Jalen Duren, just chasing him down. I thought that was an unbelievable pass. But Shireman carried the team in the first half, in the first quarter, when everybody else was struggling. I think he had 10 of his 13 points. Maybe it was all 13 points in that first half. But he goes 5 for 7 from the field in 30 minutes of action. Baylor Shireman getting 30 minutes of action against the number 1 team in the East. I thought that says a lot about what Joe Mazzulla thinks about Baylor Shireman. 3 for 5 from 3, 13 points, 3 rebounds, and 1 assist. I thought Baylor was great. I thought Baylor was great tonight. We needed him. We don't win that game without him. I still don't understand what Joe was doing with Ugo, who only played 6 minutes and was great in that 6 minutes. But nevertheless, Baylor deserved his flowers tonight. Jaylen Brown started to get it going in I think it was either in the second quarter or at the end of the second half. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So I'm just looking at my notes really quickly here. JB was 1 for 8 in the first, and then 12 points in the second quarter. That's when he started to get it going. So Baylor carried the team in the first quarter. Jalen picks up the slack in the second quarter. As Mark Jones called out on the broadcast, they were pigeon hunting Duncan Robinson. And Jalen, great two-way play to close out the half, had a couple of steals. I thought Jalen was the reason the Celtics stayed in the game in the second quarter. Amari Williams, as I mentioned, big minutes without Queta. He had a couple of blocks, I believe, in this game, and he's huge, man. He's a legit 7-footer with a great wingspan. To me, Bill Simmons has been talking a lot about how Neemias Queta reminds him of DeAndre Ayton, something that I've been saying for the past couple of years. Amari Williams, I don't see the difference between him and James Wiseman coming out of college, other than age, right? 7'1", big lefties with some playmaking skills. Neither of them can shoot, big around the rim. So Amari Williams, I actually think there's a decent prospect there. James Wiseman obviously never turned into the prospect that everybody hoped that he was coming out of Memphis. But, there's something there with Amari Williams, and I'm excited to kind of see him over the next couple of weeks. Now, with Baylor Sharman, I just want to come back to him real quick. I mentioned there's a role in the NBA, and I think it's because of the trends around the league where there's so much full court pressure, because Baylor's actually a pretty hard-nosed defender that can pick up full court and is a pretty good screen navigator. So if he's getting 20 minutes a night, 15 minutes a night, where all he's doing is full court pressure, TJ McConnell style, and then shooting three-pointers, I think Baylor Sharman could have a role in the NBA as it continues to trend towards a more fast-paced 94 feet environment. Celtics end up down at the half, 58-57. Asar Thompson hit like a 35-footer at the buzzer, which was a crazy shot. Asar Thompson, if you just look at the Pistons, I don't understand the minute distribution here, because Asar Thompson only played 25 minutes tonight, and every time he was on the court or involved in any action, the Celtics were terrified of him. He goes 25 minutes, 2 for 8 from the field, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, and a block, but his impact was far beyond the box score. And I think in general, this was one of those games where the box score probably lies to you in a couple different ways. Jalen Duren, who I didn't think had much of an impact on this game, to be honest with you, especially with the Celtics being down. Their starting center goes 12 points, 16 rebounds. I thought he should have dominated more than he did. Cade was great in this one. 36 minutes, 12 for 26 from the field, 4 for 9 from 3, 14 to 16 from the line. Missed the biggest shot of the game, though, and turned the ball over in a big moment with Jordan Walsh and Derek White, the ball brigade, getting him to turn the ball over against pressure. He goes for 42 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal, and a block, 4 turnovers. I thought that was a great game out of Cade. Shows why he's a top 5 MVP candidate so far this season based on that team success. Coming back to the Celtics, I do want to talk about Jalen. Coming back to this box score, and sorry, you're getting a full view into my ADHD brain where I'm just going to be going all over the place, galaxy brain, just talking about whatever comes into my mind. Jalen goes 34 minutes tonight. 12 for 32 from the field. 2 for 7 from 3, 28%. 7 for 8 from the line. 10 rebounds. 5 assists. 2 steals. 2 blocks. 5 turnovers. -9 on the night. 33 points. Jalen was awesome tonight. There were moments where I was a little frustrated with him forcing it, but you're going up against one of the best defenses, one of the most athletic teams in the league, and the rest of the guys in your team are struggling to create space. There are some games where you're going to have to shoot it 32 times and, take 7 3-pointers and get to the line 8 times. The 10 rebounds, 3 offensive rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. Like, that tells me everything I need to know. Not about the points, not about the field goals, but the rebounds, the assists, the steals, and the blocks, because Jalen was awesome. And Will was at the game, and he was texting me how much he loved seeing Jalen tonight. And he said, I don't know how many turnovers he has, but he's awesome. He's the best player on the court. It was him or Cade, right? And I want to come back to that rebound. He didn't even get the rebound. The box out against Stewart at the end of the game. That was, in my opinion, the biggest moment of the game. Jalen was great. The Pistons are a great defensive team. They have a lot of great athletes, and they were loading up on Jaylen Brown, daring him to hit contested shots. Obviously, we tried to go at Duncan Robinson, who held up better than I think Jalen was probably expecting. But Jalen had to do all of that. He had to shoot it 32 times. Peyton Pritchard couldn't get his shot off tonight. He ended up going 10 field goal attempts, a game where Pritchard historically in the past gets a lot of shots against the Pistons. That team has changed a lot. Peyton was good. 34 minutes, 5 for 10 from the field, 4 for 7 from 3. Derek White, next guy we got to talk about, because he's been dog shit this season. And this was his breakout game. Hopefully this gets him going. 7 for 13 from the field, 6 for 11 from 3. I think all of those were in the second half. 7 for 7 from the line, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, and a block. And the biggest defensive play of the game, double teaming Cade Cunningham on the spin in order to knock the ball out of bounds, right? This is a Derek White that we were hoping that we would get, the fourth quarter ice in his veins guy, instead of whatever we've seen this season where he looks completely lost. if Jaylen Brown continues to play at the level he's playing at, and Derek White just comes back to like average Derek White, never mind great Derek White like we got in the second half tonight, the Celtics are going to be right there in the mix because the Eastern Conference is so weak. Like we just beat the best team in the East, and they played a pretty good game for themselves. Cade had 42 points, right? They got their guys back. They got Ivy back. They're not missing anybody. And the Celtics can hang, right? I don't think they're a contender this year by any means, but there's no reason why, if Derek White plays up to form and Neemias Queta continues to develop and Peyton Pritchard shows some more signs and we get the development out of the young wings and Jordan Walsh, Ugo Gonzalez, Josh Minott, Baylor Shireman, there's no reason why we can't be a couple games over 500 like we are right now when Jason Tatum comes back and make some noise going into the playoffs. I think that'd be a best case scenario for this season. I do want to talk about Simons because this was a game where Simons, he's small. He's really small out there. He's got long arms, 6'9" wingspan, but he's small and he's slight. And you can't play guys that can be moved around the court and taken advantage of against a team that's as athletic as the Pistons. But Joe has to show more trust in Anthony Simons right now. He only got 11 minutes tonight, 1 for 7 from the field. He didn't play well. I think he ended up with 4 assists, which is cool. And then he hit those 2 free throws to help seal the game at the end. But Joe just got to stop jerking him around. Like he's coming off of 2 of his best games in his previous 2 games, and he gets 11 minutes tonight against the Pistons in a game where you need offense out there on the court. Luckily, Baylor Shireman found that offense, and maybe that's a feel thing. And Joe's like, you know what? Baylor has it going. He's a better defender than Simons is. I'm just going to roll with that because Shireman is giving me something that, Simons can do and does a lot better, but Shireman's just a better defender. I need guys that can switch on to Cade, so on and so forth. But the way that Joe Mazzulla has handled Anthony Simons' minutes this year, it's not doing him any favors, and it's not doing the Celtics organization any favors because you're lowering his trade value and you're not allowing him to get into a rhythm to be the guy that he was in Portland for the Celtics team. Simons hasn't been good for the Celtics. He was good the last couple of years, in the last couple of games, but then he has a game tonight where he plays 11 minutes, 1 for 7 from the field, and Joe doesn't trust him at all, right? And that just can't happen with a guy that you've invested in, and that is your one trade chip on the roster outside of the guys that are like definitely in your core that you don't want to trade, right? So I just don't really see the vision that Joe Mazzulla has for Anthony Simons. And part of that is like, the Celtics just grabbed a guy when they traded Drew Holiday. They're like, we'll take Simons and we'll probably trade him before the season. If not, we'll just figure it out, right? And it seems like they probably were expecting to have traded him, and now he's on the roster. And Mazzulla's like, I don't really get what this guy does for what I'm trying to accomplish as a coach. But I do think he needs to figure that out because Anthony Simons is a talented NBA player. I don't think he should start over Pritchard or anything like that. But just like Neemias Queta being out for a few games with a sprained ankle is going to open up some eyes on Amari Williams, maybe there's a world where Peyton Pritchard ends up, tweaking an ankle or something like that, needs to sit out a game, or his minutes are high, back-to-back, something like that, where we get to see Simons in an elevated role as a starter and just to do a little bit more because he's trying hard on defense. He's hitting open shots. He's had his moments, but he has no rhythm. And I think a lot of that has to do with the role that's been given to him and how Joe Mazzulla has not gone out of his way to make him feel comfortable in the offense. Okay. Let's go to the standings right now. Let's just check in on the standings because I haven't looked at the standings in a little bit and see where the Celtics are at. So Celtics are now 10-8, sitting in 8th place. We've got the Pistons at 15-3, Raptors, my pick to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals this year, 13-5. Miami Heat continuing to surprise at 12-6, Cavs at 12-7, Knicks at 10-6, Hawks at 11-8, Magic at 11-8, Celtics 10-8, Bulls 9-8, Sixers 9-8, and the Bucks 8-10 without Giannis. So we're in a pretty good spot right now. There's no reason why we can't hang with teams like the Hawks, right? And the Heat. The Heat are playing great. If you haven't watched the Heat, go watch them. But I think the Celtics, there's a world in which the Celtics exceed my expectations for this season. I had them as a playing team, but watching the basketball that I've been watching, um, the teams that I thought were going to be clearly better than the Celtics, I don't think are clearly better than the Celtics right now. That's the Hawks. That is the Magic. That is the Raptors and Pistons. I think the Pistons are definitely better. I want to see the Celtics against the Raptors. I think that'll be fun. But Celtics are in good spot, man. Two games over 500. I was really down on the team after they lost to the Nets the other day, as Jalen was, and he called himself out. He called the rest of the guys out, and he was like, "This is unacceptable." They bounced back an important game against the Magic, who are undermanned, and on the second night of a back-to-back, that's a game you should win. They did win, right? They get back over 500, and then they come into this game against the Pistons, and you're just hoping they can eke out a victory, a miraculous victory. And they played the Eastern Conference #1 seed better than a lot of teams have played them this year. And they fought tooth and nail until the end of that game. And they pulled it out despite making some dumb mistakes and some dumb coaching decisions. So feel pretty good about that. All right, we got a comment here from Bob the Gamer. What's up, Bob? How we doing? We're just recapping the game. We're about to move on, but if you've got any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. Who am I talking to? I'm talking to you, Bob the Gamer, and I'm talking to the rest of the world. All right, let's go to the things that I am thankful for this season. I just gonna go one by one. One thing I'm thankful for every member of the Boston Celtics. Jaylen Brown. Let's start with Jaylen Brown. I'm thankful for Jaylen Brown for so many reasons. But one thing I want to bring up for Jaylen Brown is just his return to the mid-range this year, which has been well documented at this point. Noah Dalzell wrote a great piece going deep into the trends around the league and talking to different coaches. A really well-written piece by Noah. I shot her a message on Slack, just letting her know that she's killing it, doing a great job. So that was a fun read. But despite Jalen struggling from the mid-range tonight, let me actually pull that up. Let me go back to the box score here, because Jalen, I don't know if he hit a mid-range shot tonight. Let's go game charts. Jaylen Brown. He had, okay, so he actually hit more than I thought. He ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4 above the foul line out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 4 for 10, 40%. He's been shooting over 50%, so a little bit below his season average. A lot of shots in the paint for Jalen, a lot of misses in the paint. That's where a lot of his misses were. He had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 misses in the paint tonight. And that's part of that's just the Pistons and their defense. But going back to what I'm thankful for is Jaylen Brown getting back into the mid-range and just playing basketball as a sport and not as a math problem. And that's what I really like about a lot of the guys in the NBA right now, is that there's this movement away from the analytics movement and back into just hoopers hooping. Like SGA is just a hooper. Nikola Jokic is a hooper. Giannis is a hooper. He's not shooting a million threes like he was a couple of years ago, right? He's just like, I'm going to fucking go to the lane. I'm the biggest guy in the court. I'm the most athletic guy in the court. Like, there's all these guys around the league that are starting to just play the game and not play the numbers. And I really appreciate that Jaylen Brown is one of those guys. We've been lucky this season to get peak Jaylen Brown season. All right, Derek White. Aside from tonight, where he was great, Derek White has had a down season, but he did it tonight. And one thing that I continue to love about Derek White is his full speed sprint to knock the ball away from somebody in transition. He does it seemingly every other game. But what I love about it is not the fact that he does it. It's the moment where he realizes, I'm going to sprint back. And this guy has no idea I'm coming in from behind, right? So you see him a lot of times, it's even off of a Derek White mistake where he's like, shit, I got to make it up. but he'll hang his head for a second. It's Derek White, kind of shitty body language. And then you see him hang his head, and then like fucking Sonic the Hedgehog just takes down the court. And then at the very last second, he anticipates which side the guy's going to dribble to. You see him kind of veer off towards that angle, knocks the ball away. He had a great chase down. I think it was on Jaden Ivey, who's one of the fastest guys in the league. Peyton Pritchard, just like Jaylen Brown going into the mid-range, I think Peyton Pritchard I'm thankful that he's leaning into his Jalen Brunson bag, as I like to call it, the playing off of 2 feet, digging into guys' hips and making sure that he's always ready to fade away into space, right? And he's been really efficient, not as efficient as Jaylen Brown is, but he's been really efficient this season shooting out of the mid-range. And I love that he continues to develop that bag. It's got some elements of Jalen Brunson to it. It's got some Kyle Lowry to it. Those undersized guards that play off of 2 feet. I think Peyton Pritchard's doing a wonderful job with that. Neemias Queta. I'm going to say I'm thankful that Neemias Queta is inspiring others like Bill Simmons to see the DeAndre Ayton in him, right? And that's something that I've compared Queta to Ayton for a couple of years now. One, I just think they kind of look alike. And then two, I think they actually are starting to play alike. And Ayton's having a good season for the Lakers. He's underwhelming, obviously, as a number 1 pick. But I think that Queta could be like the role player of DeAndre Ayton, which is all he needs to be for the Celtics. The reason why DeAndre Ayton has been a disappointment in his career is people were hoping he could be a franchise centerpiece, and he's learning how to be a role player, right? And that's something he's had to figure out over his entire NBA career. He's doing a good job for the Lakers, who are really fun to watch this season if you haven't watched the Lakers. All right. Jordan Walsh. Love making the Andre Iguodala comparison. Once again, I just think they kind of move alike on the court, but you're starting to see the Andre Iguodala-like potential on the defensive end out of Jordan Walsh. Andre Iguodala is one of the best NBA defenders of all time. I'm not saying he's going to get there. I don't think that he has the athletic tools that Andre Iguodala had. I don't think he's as strong as Andre Iguodala was, but he has a lot of the same instincts as Iggy, and he's got those long arms. You saw it tonight. I thought he played great defense on Cade whenever it was his assignment. You've seen it on Paolo. You've seen it on Maxey. You saw it on Jaren Jackson Jr. Will compared him to like a 6'6" Avery Bradley. I think that's a decent comparison as well, but I'm just thankful that Jordan Walsh is realizing his Andre Iguodala potential on the defensive end. All right, let's go to Sam Hauser. This one is something that I think a lot of people give thanks for. Sam Hauser's no dip and rip, the catch in your shooting pocket and just let that thing go. So he's catching the 3-pointer right there at his eyebrow and just letting it go without bringing the ball down, the no dip, and then letting it rip. Sam Hauser, although he struggled a little bit this season from 3, it's been really fun with that little wrinkle whenever it happens. I love that scowl, and Drew gets so excited about that. All right, let's go to Anthony Simons. For showing enough signs, I'm thankful. Anthony Simons, I am thankful that you are showing enough signs to make me want to see you play with Tatum and the rest of the guys to see how that works. I want Tatum to come back whenever he's ready, but I also want him to come back before the trade deadline just so I can see him play with Anthony Simons to see if it actually makes more sense to have Simons with Tatum rather than just the rest of the guys on the team, because Tatum needs those knockdown shooters around him. He's not as good as working in space as Jaylen Brown is. Tatum needs the guys to create a little bit more space for him to maneuver within, just because he's a little bit more of a rhythm player and less of a pure force player. So I want to see Anthony Simons play a little bit with Jason Tatum before the Celtics decide to trade him. All right. Luka Garza, I am thankful that you inspired my guy Will to get out and do some cardio, because Will saw you with your cement shoes running up and down the court and said, hey, if Luka Garza can do it, I can do it too. And that inspired Will to go do some cardio. Don't really have anything else to be thankful for Luka Garza. Josh Minott, I am thankful to Josh Minott for pushing Ugo and Jordan Walsh to play harder and to learn things like the corner crash and the baseline cut. Playing out of the dunker spot. Josh Minott, I'm also thankful for the highlight plays that you have and your quirky personality. I think you're a funny dude. The lawnmower nickname doesn't really make any sense whatsoever, but I like that you have a nickname. I like the why not, my not. I like the weird shot, the ugly shot form that goes in. I haven't checked his stats, but I feel like he's shooting like 40% from three. I have no idea, but it feels that way because I never expected to go in because the shot's so ugly. But I'm thankful that Josh Minott is a piece that the Celtics now can see if it actually makes sense to keep long term. Chris Boucher, thank you for reminding me of Avon Barksdale and Julius Campbell, same actor. Baylor Shireman, thank you for being a better defender than I gave you credit for. Xavier Tillman, thank you for that one shot a couple of years ago in the NBA Finals. And Amari Williams, I didn't think I was going to talk about you tonight, but thank you for reigniting my hope that you are a rotation big. I said one of my bold predictions in the preseason was that Scal was going to call Amari Williams the steal of the draft. It didn't happen in the preseason. We didn't really see him in the preseason, but I actually liked what I saw out of him tonight. He wasn't intimidated with the bigs. You know, he didn't get pushed around by Jalen Duren. I thought he fought really hard. He had a nice block on Cade. And as I said, what's the difference between him and James Wiseman? Joe Mazzulla, I'm thankful for your Joe Mazzulla-ness, your willingness to try more lineups. And I'm going to avoid criticism right now because I'm just giving thanks. And thank you, Joe, for holding it down for us 36-year-olds out there. And finally, my last thank you goes to Jason Tatum for posting the videos that you're posting to continue to give all of Celtics Nation hope that this season isn't a complete waste of time. Right. Obviously, there's all of the internal development that we want to see. It's really fun seeing Jaylen Brown being a number one guy and a top 10 guy. It's really fun seeing Peyton Pritchard as a starter, so on and so forth. But Celtics fans want championships, just like Celtics players and the Celtics organization wants championship. The team as currently constructed isn't winning a championship. If Jason Tatum comes back into the fold, there's a chance that we can fool ourselves into thinking we have enough to get there this year. I don't know. The Eastern Conference isn't good. Like, if Jason Tatum comes back healthy, there's no reason why we can't make it to the Eastern Conference Finals again this year because the East is that down. There's not that many teams that I'm like, this team's just better than us. So that's all the stuff I'm thankful for. Let's see. Mouthpiece, shout out to you, Mouthpiece 617. What up? What up? We are 30 minutes here. The solo pods are always tough. Let me see if I have anything else to talk about here or anything that you guys want to talk about. Night before Thanksgiving, I'm not going out tonight. Hopefully you guys are. Hopefully you get to go out and have some fun. My little guy is actually sick. He's got hand, foot, and mouth disease. If you don't know what that is, it's disgusting. Second time he's got it, and we're just dealing with that. It's got blisters all over him. It's gross. He's been crying every night, so we've been not sleeping at all. But it's great that I get to do these podcasts, watch the Celtics. Danielle, my fiance, watched a game with me tonight. Really cool. I'm going to go hang out with her, probably watch a movie or something, and get some quality time there. But for everybody out there, thank you for tuning in to Green with Envy. Like and subscribe as always. Leave a comment on the pod. Let us know something that you're thankful for, whether that's life related or Celtics related. Would love to hear from you guys. Any feedback, as always, is appreciated. And with that, that's going to do it. Signing off. Coach of the pod, Greg Manakis. Will should be back on Sunday. Peace, everybody.